From 1995, it's Operation Dumbo Drop, starring Danny Glover and Ray Liotta. And believe it or not, I saw this in theaters at a preview. I won a radio contest, and the prize was tickets to a sneak preview of this film. I wasn't really excited to go, but once I got there, I really did enjoy the film. I thought it was a nice, lighthearted story. It had some good humor in it, some good characters, and the theater was packed, and everybody had a good time that night. Interestingly though, the film disappeared quickly because it was savaged by critics who didn't feel that it was a realistic portrayal of the Vietnam War. And I agree with that, except for the fact that that's not what the movie was intended to be. It was anecdotal. It was intended to be this small story set during the Vietnam War about these 5 GIs trying to get an elephant to a village. And if you looked at it based on that, I can't see why you wouldn't enjoy this film.
I really liked this. I think that the characters in here were great. I liked the elephant because it's my favorite animal, and I like their use of Dumbo in the title.
Yes, it's very clever. Now again, if you were looking for a realistic story about the Vietnam War, that's not this film. And it doesn't try to be that. It just tries to be this small story which is based on true events, which I thought was very interesting. And it brings you this story which you probably never heard about. And the characters and the people involved are very likable, and the story is told in a very funny way.
Yes, and that's what I liked about this. I was thinking because this is set in a war that it might be all serious, and usually when something's that serious, I feel like it slows the movie down. But this, they put humor in it, and it worked.
Exactly. Now our main characters are Danny Glover and Ray Liotta. Danny Glover plays Captain Sam Cahill, and he's the American liaison officer to this small Vietnamese village that's important to the American Army because it's located on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, so it's strategic. He's supposed to go home in a week, and his replacement shows up, which is Captain T.C. Doyle, played by Ray Liotta. And there's about a week of overlap where Cahill gets to teach Doyle the ropes. Doyle is new in country, he's very gung-ho. Meanwhile, Cahill has come to really understand and like the Vietnamese people, and he has sort of a different viewpoint of what's important. So they kind of are at odds throughout the course of the film, but because they're both strong personalities and they really feel passionately about their side of it, it's interesting to see that rivalry, but ultimately they respect each other and understand where each other's coming from. So I think that's pretty cool. Now the village has an elephant named Po, and elephants are very important to these villages because they do a lot of work and they're very helpful, and they're also considered lucky by the villagers. And while Doyle and Cahill are out on patrol one night, NVA officers show up in the village, and as a punishment, because they know the Americans have been there, they destroy the elephant. And Cahill goes to his superior and says that they need to replace the elephant. They need to go get an elephant from the southern region and bring it to the village because they need to do that for the people. The commanding officer goes along with this because he feels that the village is important because of its strategic location, so he goes ahead and signs off on the mission. And Doyle is not happy about this because, like I said, he's gung-ho, he doesn't feel they need the village, and he feels this is a ridiculous waste of time.
Right. I really liked how they didn't get together, the two captains didn't go along with each other, and they didn't agree, because I feel like then the story wouldn't have as much fun with it. They wouldn't have as much fun with it. I don't know. I feel like it would have been a lot different.
The conflict between the two of them, the conflicting opinion and viewpoint, creates a lot of tension, yes, and ultimately a lot of humor. So it makes the story much more interesting. You're correct. Now, they sort of assemble a small group of ragtag soldiers to go with them on this mission. Denis Leary plays Lieutenant David Poole. He's your wheeler dealer. He's your shyster. He can get you whatever you need, and he'll manage to do it in a way that benefits him as well. Now, he's supposed to go on leave to Hawaii, and he has no interest in going on this mission, but Cahill, Danny Glover's character, has something on him, so he kind of manipulates him into going on the mission. And Cahill knows he'll be valuable because he is a wheeler dealer and can get them things that they need. Dougie Doug plays Ashford. Now, Ashford is a specialist. He's got 7 days left before he goes home. So the term, I think, is he's so short he has to look up to tie his shoes. He won't even come out of his tent. He does not want to go on this mission. He's a very funny character, and he plays this kind of fear that something's going to happen for humor. He's always looking for a lucky charm or a safe way out, so that's pretty funny. And the last member of the group is Corin Nemec, who plays Farley. Farley grew up on a farm, so Cahill and Doyle figure he's going to be really helpful with the elephant, but as it turns out, he's not really good with animals, and animals don't like him. So that creates a lot of humor, too.
Yes, and I would think that this team isn't going to be very helpful to the two captains, but they actually were, and I liked that.
They eventually bond with each other, and they bond with the elephant when the elephant comes into the story. So they go to a southern region, they go to a village, they purchase an elephant. The name of the elephant is Botat, and Botat has a young Vietnamese boy named Lin. They are best friends. They are bonded, and Lin and Botat are a package deal. Interestingly, they both came from the north. They both fled to the southern region when the war got too bad in the north, and Lin lost his parents in the war. So Cahill feels like this is a perfect solution. He can bring them back to their home, in a sense, back up north, and he can help the village out at the same time. And Ray Liotta's character feels like the only reason Cahill is doing this is so he can feel good about himself when he goes home. And they eventually come to kind of a confrontation about that. But basically it becomes a road story from this point on. They go to get on a cargo plane because Denis Leary's character doesn't want to deal with this any longer than he has to. He wants to get to Hawaii, so he's finagled a cargo plane. And they show up with this elephant, and the pilot wants nothing to do with it. Because if the elephant moves around on the plane, of course, it can affect the plane and it can actually crash. So Denis Leary has these tranquilizers that are for water buffalo, and he figures if he gives, a tranquilizer to the elephant, it'll put it to sleep. So they do that. The elephant goes to sleep. The plane takes off. But then the elephant wakes up because they only gave her one tranquilizer. And they can't give her another one because Farley, who's the one that's not good with animals, managed to trip over the elephant's foot when it was asleep and crush the other tranquilizers. So the elephant starts moving around and the plane starts moving around, and they wind up having to make an emergency landing.
Yes, I feel like when they were in the plane, as long as you know you're not going to die or get hurt, I feel like that might be a little bit fun.
It looked like an amusement park ride in a way, from the inside anyway. So once they make this emergency landing, the pilot exiles the 5 GIs, the elephant, and Lin, and they have to find alternate transportation north. So they start on foot, they wind up on a truck, and they put the elephant in the back of a truck. The truck dies, they wind up on a boat. They have some interesting adventures on the boat, and each one of the characters has a chance to kind of shine in this process. Eventually they wind up in a city, and the elephant is starving and sees a cart of bananas and starts chasing the bananas, and that makes for a great comedic scene where Farley and Ashford are chasing the elephant, and one thing plays out. It's almost an Abbott and Costello film at that point, but it's really done well, and I thought it was very funny.
Yes, I really liked the elephant in here. I feel like the elephant has a personality too. Oh,
I agree. And during this process, Danny Glover's character has bonded with Lin. Lin, of course, is looking for a father figure or a parent figure because he lost both parents. He's an orphan. All he has is Botat, and Cahill befriends him, and that's nice too. Also, all the other soldiers really like Lin, and they really like the elephant, and so they start to get behind this mission even though none of them really wanted to go on it at first. They get back to the commanding officer, and they tell him they need the cargo plane to get the elephant closer to the village so they can walk the elephant in, and the commanding officer says, no, the mission's off. The Ho Chi Minh Trail has moved. We don't need the village anymore. And at that point, Cahill decides he's going to go anyway. And the great part here is Liotta, Doyle, goes along with him, and the other 3 do as well. They don't have to because at this point they're disobeying orders, and they don't need to do this, but they decide to do it because they believe in what they're doing. They want to help the village, they want to help Lin, and they want to help Botat.
Yes, and by that point, the first thing it reminded me of was Star Trek III, Search for Spock, when Captain Kirk stole the Enterprise.
Yes, actually. And it's that, yes, you're correct. It's a tried and true formula, and if the formula works, why change it? So yes.
And then when they're making the thing for Botot to drop into the village, that reminded me a little bit of MacGyver.
Yes, because they weld together this kind of carriage type deal that's going to be in the back of the plane that the elephant can be in, and the parachutes will attach to so they can airdrop the elephant into the village. So it's pretty interesting. They get up in the plane, one thing leads to another, and eventually we do get this great image of this elephant parachuting into the village. And from what I've read, it took them 12 or 13 fiberglass elephants to make this drop happen, and they filmed it over the course of a couple of weeks, and they had several mishaps with some of them, but they ultimately got the footage, and I think it looks great.
Yeah, I was a little bit scared for the elephant at that point.
I can understand that. You know, the movie really is a feel-good movie. There's a lot of humor in it. The characters are great. I enjoyed myself in the theater, and like I said, that night the theater was packed, and I heard applause at the theater. Kids enjoyed it, parents enjoyed it, and then the movie just disappeared. And you haven't really been able to find it until recently when it came on Disney Plus. And I watched it again with you guys. I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time. You seem to enjoy it.
Yes, I loved this movie.
So we're in no way saying that this is a harsh, realistic view of what Vietnam was like. Again, this is an anecdote. It's a small story told during the Vietnam War. So the Vietnam War is just the setting, and it happens to be this kind of one-off mission, and it's told in a way that's family-friendly, it's enjoyable. It could be a conversation starter about the Vietnam War, but it really isn't about that. It's about this boy, the elephant, the village, these GIs, and what they're all doing, and people trying to help people out. And as such, I think it works.
Yes, me too. For me, this is one to see. I feel like this story, the characters are great. I really liked the actors and the parts. I think that this story has a little bit of everything: comedy, action, adventure.
I agree. Danny Glover, I liked so much in this film. It was a departure for him, at least from what I'd seen, because I'd mostly seen him in villain roles in Hill Street Blues and in Witness. Ray Liotta was always in these mob films. He's very likable here. I really enjoyed him. Denis Leary, this is my favorite role of his. Dougie Doug, I'm surprised, has not worked more because he is great in this film. He's hilarious. And Corin Nemec, of course, I saw in Stargate. I think he should have done more as well. I think they're all in top form here. I laughed out loud. The first time I saw it, I laughed out loud when we watched it again. It really is a fun movie for a night with the family, and I highly recommend it. I think it's the nuts. See what I did there? Nuts, peanuts, elephants like peanuts.
Yeah.
No, not so much. Okay. I'll try to do butter next time. Peanut butter. Okay, forget it. Never mind. One. See what I did there?
Oh, Daddy.